Hi, I'm Alexis Roussel. I'm the COO, Chief Operating Officer of NYM Technologies, and also helping promoting NYM and privacy tech around the world.
Okay. Hi, Alexis.
Hi, Peter.
Happy to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Hi, everyone. So, can you share, please, your experience of building a resilience infrastructure? What did you learn and what obstacles were there?
Yeah, so we build NYM. It's a Mixnet, and it's a very old concept because it was invented by David Schoen in the 80s. And it's many people tried to build it since that time, but basically it needed some other mature elements in order to come to pieces. And that only happened in the late 2020s. One piece of what is needed for Mixnet is also all the incentivized part, so the blockchain part, the tokenized, the financial, the DeFi part. So the Mixnet basically is a communication tool which allows to obfuscate, to hide the pattern of communication. So it's not about just hiding, encrypting end-to-end the communication between people, but it's about hiding the communication between those people completely, so that I cannot see by observing the network that you are talking to someone else. Right? And for this, we have this network, this Mixnet that is mixing all the traffic and it's creating noise. So there's no way to identify the pattern. Right. And so what do we learn? So the first thing we learn is, like, indeed, it takes time sometimes for one specific technology to be mature enough, to have enough research, but also to have other technologies around that we don't think are related to be mature enough, not only in terms of like science, but also in terms of economic and social development, right? The blockchain part, for example, needed to have already 10 years of experience done by people before we can add it there. And the second thing we learned, which is, I think for me was also a very personal experience, is that when we're trying to build privacy, we think sometimes that privacy are based on the tools that we have, that we are in control. It's something that is kind of personal. I will connect privately with you and encrypt things. But in reality, if you want to build privacy in a larger scope, more like towards anonymity, you need a group of people. You need to be mixing with a lot of other group of people and hide into a group. So privacy is not something you can do alone or with someone else. It's something which is that you have to do collectively. What we say at NYM is privacy loves company, and you need a lot of participants to increase the anonymity set. I think that this is a learning which we're going to use more and more in the future. If you want, you have this meme of the fish. There's a big fish going after a small fish, and then suddenly the small fish comes with the whole rest of the small fish, but they form a big fish, right? And they go after the bigger fish. So that's the kind of like story behind anonymity, which I really learned through these years.
Oh, that's great knowledge, and I really like this analogy of this meme. But the question is, like, where do you get the small fish, and how do you involve them in being more private, being more conscious, like in the way they use web tools?
The main lesson we took is from this whole movement from HTTP to HTTPS, like the inclusion of TLS. And sadly, you cannot always count on massive adoption of a conscious massive adoption of a privacy tech. Of course, in certain groups, you will have some adoption because people understand and will take it. But then at one point, what happened with TLS is that the browsers imposed the TLS to the website, saying, okay, from now on, you have to do it, and we put a warning on your website. And for privacy or for other kind of technology, it's going to be the same thing. So what we are trying to do at NYM is we already we said, oh, we build a Mixnet, but on this Mixnet, we can build some other applications. And we build something that people understand, which is not completely private, but it brings them towards this. So we build a VPN, like a standard VPN, but in fact, it's a decentralized VPN. And then inside this VPN, we are going in the future, we're going to enable them to use the Mixnets, but maybe without knowing, right? So we're going to move some of the traffic through the Mixnets, like for messaging applications, for example. And I think this is the way is that, like, as a community, when we're building services, basically it's sometimes the operator, I think the operators in general have an incentive to use privacy tool on the users, because the less you know of your users, of your clients, the more you protect them, actually. Mm-hmm. And so I think this is how you move to privacy, is not by educating masses, but it's like pushing them into products that work better but are private.
Yeah, agree. And I personally adore that you managing to combine Web2 and Web3 worlds all together. Like, really, I don't know how many companies do that. Like, but what's your feeling like about this intersection? Like, how do we merge those words? Because it feels like they're two separate bubbles. Here now, yes, but like in general, how can we make this intersection more valid?
Yeah, I think where Web2 has like really an advantage is in user experience, user flow, UI, and in the Web3 where I mean, in the core Web3, in the Bitcoin world, we're really bad at this, right? I mean, there was some improvements, but so I think it's a kind of like mixing the both. How we do this, it's very hard. Actually, it's very hard because suddenly you mix in the teams. We mix people who have Web3 experience, or even sometimes only Web3 experience, with people who have Web2 experience. And basically, when you mix them together, the designer of the new app has no clue how a login with a seed phrase works, right? Mm-hmm. And he doesn't understand how a call to an RPC. What is this, right? And he tries to put a login, a username and login and password somewhere. So he doesn't know the kind of interaction we can imagine. So there's a lot of storytelling within the company that we do, that I do, because I'm more like a Web3 native person rather than a Web2. And so we have these like key people in the company who are Web3 native, and they do storytelling within the company on the others. It's hard because people don't always listen, but we push the story out, and slowly we have this like mixture that comes to life.
Okay, so imagine. I want to talk about future. So because there is so much doom and gloom in privacy space. Yeah. Let's imagine like we are, I don't know, 10, 15, whatever years from now, and we have a free internet, private, secure, without any push like from inside. How will it look like, and how will the world look like?
Well, the world will look like very much different. Why? Because what it will imply is that all the current institutions that manage our society will have transformed into other types of institutions. Right? So let's think. So the revolution we are living here. That's my view, of course. It's a unique revolution, but the scale of the revolution, we already saw something similar. For example, the printing revolution did some fundamental changes. It took time, but at one point, there were some like old institutions, feudal monarchy institutions with church. And because of the paper, the printing, the ideas flow change, new technology came, a new concept of living in society came. And then eventually, the institution had to change. So from a monarchy, we went to a republican system, and that there was another justice system, there was another army system, everything changed, and the money system also changed. And now we are going to we are moving into another system where there are new institutions. And I claim, for example, that Bitcoin itself is a new form of institutions. If you think as an institution is a tool for the society to self-organize and to avoid problems or to synchronize everyone, right? And so back in the industrial age, the central bank was the most obvious solution to solve the money issue, right? And today, Bitcoin is the institution that can solve it. So Bitcoin didn't take over the world, but in a world where we want, Bitcoin will be the main monetary institutions, and there will be some other stuff around, of course. So that gives a clue on how it looked like, because there will still be some social institutions where people will come together and decide how we decide to live. But most of the infrastructure that we will rely on will be decentralized. So my utopia, and which is I hope we will reach, is that basically our society will not run its own infrastructure, that it will rely only on open and decentralized infrastructure. But the way to go there, it's going to be messy, because the current institutions are going to try to hold on power, right? Because they are being threatened at their heart. And the more they lose power, the more they will revert to violence, because violence is the only thing they still have as a monopoly, right? So the key thing that will happen when we are winning is when we find the institution, whatever it is, that will manage the monopoly of violence. Yeah. And it won't be the current military system, it won't be the current police system, it will be another kind of system. And I don't know how it will look like. Maybe it's going to be a kind of like swarm of drones, AI-powered drones, but that don't attack humans for some reason, and we have to find a way to control them. And that will be more powerful than the drone swarm managed by a centralized authority. So a decentralized authority has to be stronger than a centralized authority. And there will be wars like this, but that will be the key point when we will have won. It's like the monopoly of violence as is shifting to the decentralized institution.
Yeah, I totally agree with this take. Like on digital states, it's a really huge question. Like, how do you do this monopoly on violence thing, which is so heavily abused now, especially today? It's like crazy. But
it's abused because they are losing power on the rest. They don't have control of communication. They don't have control on money anymore. They're losing control everywhere. So the only thing to assert your authority is violence. That's the only thing that we have left.
Sure. But do you think, like, is there any way, maybe political through parties or maybe like personal, to kind of make this beautiful, bright future like more possible, like in the nearest future, not some time ago, like not in a very distant future?
Yeah, I think it is possible, but it will also depend on the culture, because every region has a different culture.
Yeah, of course.
And so some countries have a culture that allow these kind of changes to happen, and some are resistant. Right? So if you look in Europe, for example, myself, I'm in Switzerland. Switzerland, if you look at history again, if you look at the first big revolution, Switzerland was on the forefront of the ideas. It was shifting slowly to a democratic and decentralized system, and it was fueling the other revolution. It was helping the other countries, but it never really had the revolution in their country. It was a slow movement, right? France, on the contrary, has to go to the limits of the logic of the old system, and then when the old system is breaking, then eventually there's a new system that's coming, and then it's violent. You had the French Revolution. The US will have a problem because US was born directly from this new revolution. The French Revolution was together at the same time with the Americans' independence war. So it's going to be hard for them because they didn't live a transition. They were born from this new revolution, and it's going to be pretty violent. And I'm very afraid of countries like, for example, China or some more Asian countries which have this tendency of going into authoritarian regimes, and they don't have a strong cultural incentive to move to democracies. They have, because of this Confucius theory or culture of group thinking, which is more important. So it makes sense, right? But they will live okay. But because we're in a globalized world, there will be some tensions that we already see now between democracies and authoritarian world. And the problem that we have now is that the democracies are moving into the authoritarian world slowly because the old regimes of them. So what we have to find is places where we can define the new institutions of the new democracies, or forms of government that is good for people in a decentralized way. Maybe it's not a democracy, maybe it's something close, but basically, and I think Switzerland, for example, could be a place that moves into that direction. I think, for example, there's another place in the world right now which is trying to go into that direction, which is Kurdistan, where you have the Rojava experiment, and they are writing a lot on democratic confederalism, and it's very close to Switzerland, and there's actually some connections between the Web3 world, the Cypherpunks, and the Rojava and the Kurdistan that fuels between the groups. So these connections exist. I'm pretty also very excited by Latin America in general, because Latin America has this culture of when some new form of institution or new form of society appears, they are the first one willing to embrace it in a very hard way, in a very quick way. So we have a tiny example with El Salvador and Bitcoin. It's not the perfect example, right? Because it's still an authoritarian state. But still, it shows that when you have a crazy technology, a government or a local institution can take this very quickly. So Latin America is something to watch, because I think it will be one of the places when the revolution, the digital human revolution is advanced enough, they will massively switch to that side.
Yeah, but I would love to explore this topic. I mean, like Malay, Latam, Kurdistan, but we don't have time for that. So I will ask you more populist question. Okay. I would say I know 3 practical steps for everyone to make this bright future happen. I mean, NYM users or people who follow Web privacy now, us. So if you don't have political power for a radical change, you're just a web user, right? Mm-hmm. What you can do to kind of improve this global situation, on a practical level?
It's a very good question. It's a very hard question. Then you have a question. Well, I would say the first answer is to use the open source tools, right? That's the first answer. And there's some good signs, right? We saw that statistics from France where now 10 or 11% of all the computers are on Linux, which is wow. That there was a really a big shift, which was provoked by the upgrade on Windows 11, which people hate because they have to pay. It's complicated, whatever. So people are switching to Linux, and that's good, right? So this is pushing a lot. I think using the tools at home, it's one good thing. If you are even in a professional environment, this is even better because you can push these tools into this environment. Yeah, I would say, of course, embrace the new finance, and I don't say that in a speculation way, right? It's not about playing on coins or whatever and investing in whatever new shitcoin that comes out, but it's actually trying to understand what is happening. because it is a big movement. It's something really important is happening. And it's about shifting some usage over there, because you will find out that right now it's still a bit hard for common people to use because you don't have many places to buy and sell stuff with it. But once you start using it, you start gaining a freedom that you don't have with traditional tools. For example, you can move money, and suddenly when you move money and your bank is calling you, why do you do this, right? If you use Bitcoin and move money, no bank is going to ask you anything. So, and you're in control. So there's much more freedom. And once you learn how to use this, you are gaining a lot of confidence in your personal financial freedom. Even if it's small amounts, doesn't need to be a big, few $100, few tens of bucks that you can try out, and you will see the power of being free and autonomous on the financial side, using cryptography, using those open tools. Right? So that will be the second thing. And the third thing for me, and that's a personal thing, is basically coming out on in the discussion with people, but also with the administration. Every time you face private companies you talk to, or you use public administration that you go to, be strong on your rights and on the new forms of rights. So it's not just about privacy, because privacy people sometimes they will tell you, oh, but you have something to hide if you want to be private. No, it's your right to be autonomous, to be free. It's your right to protect your digital integrity. The same way you protect your physical integrity and your mental integrity, you have a right to protect your digital integrity. And with this right to digital integrity, you have a right to an offline life. That means that it's up to you as a citizen to decide if you are going to talk to your government in an electronic way or not. And this is very important, because maybe your grandmother doesn't want to use her cell phone to talk to the administration. She can go to the office. She needs to have this right to go to the office. And you, if you are a technologist, you don't want to use Microsoft Teams to call for the administration. You want to use an open source system. So even if you're a technologist, you need to have the options. The control should be on your side, not on the government side, in the relationship with you. And we're implementing this right in Switzerland. And what is good is that when we make people vote in Switzerland, people had to vote on that topic. In Geneva and in Neuchâtel, it was added in the constitution. And the question was simple, do you want to have the right to digital integrity in the constitution? It was yes, 94% of the population, 94%. Wow. So it was like everyone agreed, right? So there is because it's a nice, it's right now the current institutions that we have, they are so used to being in control of the tech and to impose tech to the people, and they are forced by big companies, Microsoft, who is like pushing a lot of money in there, making cheap licenses for them, right? And but the reality of those votes is that the people say, well, actually, we don't want to have this constraint. But it's very hard for common people who are not technologists to speak out the right word. But when they vote on the topic, then we can see the results. So speak out for your rights, your right for an offline life, and for your right for protect your digital integrity.
Wow, that's a very brilliant answer. Thanks for that. You nailed that, because it's not the easy one. Okay, the hot take on Cypherpunk.
Okay, on Cypherpunk.
Yeah. Like, because now it's like kind of a hot topic, and like everyone is trying to explore. We as well, at privacy now. Like, what does it look like? What is Cypherpunk, and what should I do to be a Cypherpunk? Like, because Cypherpunk definitely are not just writing code now; it's much wider.
Yes.
And yeah, how do you feel about Cypherpunk in general, and what does it mean for you?
Yeah. So what I notice is that there is a revival of Cypherpunk, right? So and this is clear. This revival is linked to the rise of Bitcoin, there was a kind of defeat moment before Bitcoin. And this defeat moment was, due to the overwhelming actions of all the governments in controlling controlling the whole infrastructure. And for me, this moment was like more in 2003 and 2005, where I had the chance to be. I was working at the UN. I had the chance to work at the World Summit of Information Society, 2003, 2005. It was a big summit with all the states were talking about the future of internet. And it was clear. I was like listening to people going around, and everyone was saying, how do we control internet? How do we control people? And all the governments were saying this, democracies and autocracies. So clearly at that time, we had lost. And for me, it was clear that one of the answer was going to be political. It's not, of course, there is technology, but it has to be also political. And the two have to come together. And this is what I like with the anonymity we're building at NYM, is that we're going a bit away from privacy, because privacy is actually a concept which is not very built in our society, not very well built in our society, and in legal term. And anonymity is something which actually protects much better the small person, right? Anonymity for the small, transparency for the big ones, right? So, and in order to build right anonymity, it needs to come together with legal concepts like the right to digital integrity. Because in the right to digital integrity, in order to protect yourself, you need the right not to be surveilled, measure, and analyze. Basically, it's the right to anonymity. So if you build anonymity tech and you promote anonymity laws or the right to anonymity together, then you are able to do something which is very complicated for pure technologists, is to start changing the narrative and finding the right words that will move people into applying those new rights and using the right technology for it. So that comes together. So Cypherpunk today is a movement that needs to open to it needs to understand code, of course. We all understand, and I urge everyone who is interested in this movement to learn code, because you have to learn the basic part. You might not need to learn the code, but also learn the structure of the internet from the bare metal and the fiber until the electron in the CPU up to the application layer. You have to learn the 7 layers of networking and so on. So because this gives you the vision, the total vision. So I think our movement is going to open up, and is going to be much larger also in its thinking. It was like there was some form of utopia saying, well, there's the old world and there's the new world, and that's it, right? And in the old world, like in one of the main papers, it says the people from the old world are not welcomed, right? It starts like this from Timothy May, I think. Yeah. But what Rose says, she says differently, is that she says both forces are there. You have the dark side, and you have the Lunarpunk and the Solarpunk sides, which are both present, and they feed each other. And basically, what we can see also, but within the Cypherpunk, you have people working in both sides, basically, right? So being conscious that you are feeding yourself from surveillance tech, and surveillance tech is feeding defensive tech, which is again feeding. It's an infinite loop. And what is important is to find the equilibrium in there, right? That's Rose's work, and I think she makes a big leap in helping build a better utopia, because now we start to see a more concrete society and tools and institutions, like we said at the beginning. How does a society look like? And we can see the dystopia and the utopia. So now we start to have like organization. I think the whole work that happened with DAOs for the last 10 years It still needs to mature. It still needs to go much further. But it shows that there's a path to have organization which are transparent as an organization, but are protecting and respecting the anonymity of the user of the person who is part of this organization. So this is the future, and Cypherpunk means, I think for me today, keeping the place of the human in this tech world, because I think this is what we are striving for. We are humans, and we want to stay human and be in control of the society, but using all this technology. We want to have this AI, these drone swarms, these things to help us and to make us better, and to have this energy, new types of energies. We want all of this, right? But we want it in a way where we control it.
Yep, 100%. I think we need to round up now. Okay. So thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. Special hi to Solarpunks. Yeah, mais a privacy news you. Ciao.